What is happening at JGamerDude here, and video games are finally going mainstream. Now I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because now we're getting Olympic esports. That is great, but it's being held in Saudi Arabia, and considering that Saudi Arabia has been doing a lot of sports washing lately, so they've been buying up, they've created their own live golf tournament and then buying up all of the biggest names in golf in order to take part in live golf. They've been doing, I think they tried to do the same thing with football. I don't know if that worked out for them. And they are doing the same thing for boxing, since MMA has been taking over the boxing area. And actually, are they doing it for boxing or MMA? I can't quite remember. It was one or the other. But Saudi Arabia is definitely trying to wash their history with nothing but sports and entertainment. And somehow the next thing that they're trying to do is bring in the International Olympics Committee, which we're now going to call IOC moving forward in this video, in order to make the inaugural Olympic Esports Games in 2025, which here says in the highlights, signaling a major shift in recognition of gaming as a legitimate sport. Which, let's be real, gaming is not a sport. Esports does make it sound better, but not as official. I don't know, man. Depends on, I guess, what you want to count as a sport, because I consider sports to be far more physical than it is mentally draining or taxing. But maybe I'm just thinking about this in terms of old rules, so to speak. But let's just kind of look into this a little bit further. So Saudi Arabia will be holding the inaugural Olympic Esports Games in 2025. Gaming has come a long way from what it once was in many areas, and it seems like that includes the types of audience it is typically considered for. As well. 20 years ago, esports may not have been considered this important. The landscape of these events and the scope of gaming have transformed, though, making something like Olympic esports more feasible. And that certainly is the case, because I feel like the older we get, especially those of us that have grown where in a generation where gaming has been such a massive part of our lives, whether it be in childhood, even if people played games when they were a kid but then just stopped, sometimes people can look back and be like, man, I kind of miss those days, and there is that level of nostalgia that does exist. But of course that can be alienating if you're out of a community for 20 years, try to return and then realize maybe things aren't quite the same, but it doesn't hurt to try and jump back in. And of course we do have stuff like EVO, which is fighting game tournaments, but considering the fact that the IOC is involved, and the fact it's Saudi Arabia as well that we're looking at, this could be treated as a far bigger thing considering the entities involved. But that's just me. Again, we do have esports technically, whether it be the International for League of Legends, whether it be stuff that's happening with Counter-Strike, with Valorant, whether it be EVO with the fighting games, hell, even Fortnite being big enough to kind of, bring in some normie names from back in the day as well. There is a lot to go off of, and at the moment the rumors suggest that games such as League of Legends, Street Fighter and Rocket League may be among the games chosen for competition. So it's clear that they haven't actually picked or decided what those games are going to be, which is interesting to think about considering that this event is likely going to be happening next year. Before the esports series in 2023, esports was part of the 2007 Asian Indoor Games. Wow, okay, I've never heard of that, but it's probably going to be worth looking up and making a video about. I think I'll just put that on my notes. But yeah. And a decade later, during the Olympic Summit, professional esports was given serious consideration. By 2022, the Olympic Esports Series was solidified, leading up to the inaugural competition that will take place in 2025, which is this one that we're talking about here. The IOC is keen on pulling in younger audiences, which is part of why, from here on out, Olympic Esports Games will regularly be held. Saudi Arabia counts over 23 million gamers in its population, which is a large enough audience by itself to want to host these competitions worldwide. The gains may be beyond imagination. The ICO notes that its financial model for esports will be separate from the way Olympic Games are. The stated reason for this is to address the specific nature of esports games, which could include the costs of run all the technology for an Olympic level gaming event, in addition to things like setting up streams and venues. Although gamers will have to wait and see what the 2025 event looks like. The past couple of trial runs may indicate a trustworthy track record for these kinds of events. That is interesting. That is fascinating. I do not trust Saudi Arabia to do a good well, they could do an incredibly good event, but the problem is Saudi Arabia, the country, and its leader, and the fact that, you know, they're trying to like buy everything in a world where capitalism rules. And so for one of the richest people in the world to just buy everything, it really does kind of make me scratch my head and wonder, how far can money truly take you? Just by itself. So that's also another interesting element to it, but I don't want to, you know, step too much into that particular Thunderdome. I feel like a lot of other people could probably be fighting it out there anyways in the mud and dirt. But with that being said, this is a fascinating yet incredibly interesting thing that we're looking at, and I'm interested to know, what does everybody think? For those of you guys watching, please comment below. What do you think about this? This is a whole idea of like actual esports, the Olympics, and Saudi Arabia coming together. Despite the fact that we also already have events, again, like the International Evo and stuff like that. Where are we going with all of this? What's going to happen? I want you guys to try and predict the future here. Where is this all going to go in 5 years? If it starts next year, technically we've got 4 years of, potential growth there, or potential decline, depending on how you want to look at it. But let me know what you guys think about all of that in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 300 subs by the end of the year. And with all that said and done, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.